What if I told you there's a place where 200,000 people live on top of polluted water, in wooden shacks barely held together, with no clean drinking water, no toilets, no hospitals? Sounds like something out of a dystopian novel, but it's real. And that's just one of many places around the world where people survive in environments that seem downright unlivable. Not just survive. Many of them build communities, raise families, and carve out meaning in conditions most of us couldn't last a week in. Now hold on, because this isn't just a tour of human resilience. In a moment, I'll show you a rock that appears to be sliced clean down the middle as if by a giant laser. Another that sits on a cliff and should have tumbled to the ground centuries ago, but somehow hasn't. These go beyond what you'd call legendary survival stories. They're reminders of how strange, mysterious, and at times downright baffling our world is. So if you've ever looked at the Earth and thought we've mapped it all out, uncovered every secret, and left no mystery unsolved, think again. There are people building lives on toxic water, entire cities wedged into cliff crevices, and rocks balanced so impossibly they seem to mock gravity. So stick around till the end. Also, subscribe, and share this with someone who thinks they've seen it all, because what you're about to see proves they haven't. Let's start in Nigeria, in a place called Makoko. It's often referred to as the Venice of Africa, but not in the postcard perfect sense. This is a floating slum on the edge of Lagos, and over 200,000 people live here on top of a lagoon in wooden homes propped up by stilts. The water they live above is so polluted it's black in places. There's no plumbing, no sewage system. Healthcare, out of reach. Schooling, limited. You might ask, why stay? For many, there's nowhere else to go. Their families have lived there for generations, and fishing used to sustain the community. But even that's fading as the water becomes increasingly toxic. Still, children laugh, neighbors chat from boat to boat, and life goes on in a place that by every standard shouldn't be livable. Makoko might seem extreme until you see what life's like at the top of the world. Now jump to over 16,000 feet above sea level in Peru, to La Rinconada, the highest permanent settlement on Earth. No oxygen machines, no paved roads, no sewage system, just freezing temperatures, thin air, and gold. Lots of it. About 30,000 people have settled here, many driven by the hope of striking it rich in the nearby mines. It's the promise of wealth versus the guarantee of suffering. For most, the gold never comes. What does come is altitude sickness, mercury exposure, and a lifestyle that feels closer to a slow decline than a dream realized. And yet, every year, more people move there chasing the same hope. Life is basic. Houses are shacks patched together from metal sheets. Children often work in mines instead of attending school. And still, families arrive, drawn by rumors that the next mountain might be the one that changes everything. And just when you think this is as extreme as it gets, wait till you hear where an entire community lives directly underneath highway bridges. In Manila, the capital of the Philippines, some families live underneath highway bridges. Not beside them, underneath them. Concrete beams above, rushing cars all day and night, and just enough space to build a shack. These people live with constant noise, vibrations, and the looming threat of floods or accidents. Electricity is unstable. Clean water is rare. Yet they've made homes here, entire families, because even the underside of a bridge can be better than the violence or poverty they fled from elsewhere. Some of these makeshift communities even have small food stalls, makeshift schools, and markets tucked into narrow spaces under the concrete. They survive not with government support, but through solidarity. Off the coast of Colombia is Santa Cruz del Islote, an island about the size of a soccer field. But it holds over 11,000 people. To put that in perspective, it's 4 times denser than Manhattan. You'd think people would avoid a place like that, but it's actually in high demand. Why? No mosquitoes. In a tropical country like Colombia, that's a big deal. Originally, fishermen stopped there and noticed the island had no bugs, so they stayed. Over the decades, more families came until the island became what it is today, a hyper-packed, barely functioning settlement. There's no sewage, no real power grid, and drinking water arrives by boat. But people stay, not just because of the mosquito-free air, but because they've built lives there. It's home. There's a rhythm to the chaos. Kids play on the rooftops. Neighbors know each other's families. Every square foot is used. And somehow, it works. And just when you think crowded and chaotic is the norm, there's a place where the entire town lives in one single building. In Whittier, Alaska, the entire town, amid about 270 people, live in a single 14-story structure called Begich Towers. It has everything: apartments, a post office, a convenience store, even a school. There's only one road in, and it goes through a one-way tunnel that closes at night. It's remote, cold, and completely self-contained. But here's the twist. Residents like it that way. The isolation creates a strong sense of community. They watch out for each other. In winter, when the winds scream and the snow piles up higher than cars, everything anyone needs is just an elevator ride away. Living in one building means no commute, no long walks in the snow, and a kind of togetherness that modern cities have all but lost. But now let's move from how humans survive the impossible to how Earth itself defies logic. Starting with a rock in Saudi Arabia that looks like it was cut by a laser. Perfectly split, top to bottom, with a gap so clean it doesn't seem possible. It's called Naslaa, and scientists still aren't sure how it happened. Some say erosion, others think minor quakes created the split over thousands of years. But here's the catch. The cut is razor straight, symmetrical, and goes right through. It's still standing today, balanced on a tiny base as if gravity forgot about it. Over in Japan, there's a monolith called Ishi no Hoden that looks like it's hovering above water. A massive stone, perfectly carved, balanced so precisely that it appears to float. No tools have ever been found nearby, no writings. Just local legends that say the gods made it. Even today, it's considered sacred. And nobody has an answer. And some of these rocks, they've resisted gravity and logic for thousands of years. One was even pushed by elephants. There's the Golden Rock in Myanmar. A huge boulder covered in gold leaf sits on the edge of a cliff. The contact point? About the size of a dinner plate. It's been sitting like that for over 2,500 years. Locals believe it's held in place by a strand of Buddha's hair. Geologists say friction and weight balance keep it steady. But thousands of tourists look at it each year and think the same thing. How hasn't it fallen? India has its rock mystery, Krishna's Butterball. It's a 250-ton granite boulder that rests on a slope so smooth, it looks like it should roll off with a light breeze. But it hasn't moved for centuries, not even when 7 elephants tried to push it during British rule. Local myths say the god Krishna dropped it while eating butter. Scientists, again, can't agree. In Colombia, a giant stone called La Piedra del Peñol rises straight out of the ground like the earth cracked open and pushed it upward. It's over 10 million tons, 200 meters tall, and has just one long crack where tourists now climb 740 steps to the top. Indigenous people once worshipped it. Now it's a tourist magnet, but nobody knows how it got there. And just when you thought we'd run out of mysterious rocks, one more. Japan's Masuda no Iwafune. A strange 800-ton stone that's been precisely carved with geometric shapes, square holes, and smooth surfaces. Its purpose? Unknown. No burial found, no writings. Just sitting there on a hill like someone meant to finish a project and never came back. So what do we make of all this? On one hand, we have humans pushing the limits of survival, living in places that freeze over, flood regularly, or teeter on the edge of collapse. On the other, we have the Earth itself, presenting mysteries in the form of gravity-defying rocks and unexplained structures. Maybe these stories remind us of something simple, that resilience doesn't always look clean or comfortable. Sometimes it looks like a fishing village floating on poison water. Sometimes it looks like a golden rock that never falls. But either way, both raise the same question. How much do we understand about this world? If you made it this far, you're probably the kind of person who's curious about the world and not afraid to question it. So here's what you can do. Share this video with someone who thinks Earth has no surprises left. Hit the like button if any of these stories made you stop and think. And if you want to hear more stories that challenge what you think you know, subscribe. We've got a lot more coming. New places, new questions, and maybe a few answers too. Thanks for watching. Stay curious.